During the early part of my biological parents' relationship, my mother had moved on to my father's part of the reservation in Zith, which is near Nozzolini, Arizona. In most parts of the reservation, we only have outhouses. I am recounting my mother's story. Also, keep in mind, as a child, I have held my bladder's request to be relieved many times because of this story. So late at night, my mom woke up my dad and told him she needed to use the bathroom. So they started walking to the bathroom, which is normally a distance from the house. My father was walking in front of my mother, only using a flashlight and the light from the moon that was out that night. When they got to the outhouse, my dad reached open and grabbed the door. He had opened the door wide enough for my mom to explain what she saw. A man sitting down on the toilet, painted all in white. He had gotten up, stood in my father's face, and blew a white substance into my dad's face and took off running. My mom told me my dad fell backwards and fainted, and she ran back to the house screaming and crying, telling everybody what happened. Skinwalkers, also known as Nakaloshi, are Navajo witches and grave robbers. They wear animal hides and paint themselves differently. They are known to shapeshift. Once they are spotted, they shapeshift and run away. I had later asked my mom what that white stuff could have been. She said, since they are grave robbers, it was probably grounded up human bone. Part 2. When we were young, my mom and brother never had a good relationship. Unless my mom was doing something wrong like buying us alcohol or cigarettes. She thought that was the proper way to build rapport with him because at this point he was becoming more rebellious against her. One evening they both had a dispute about something and my brother decided he was going to get on his bike and ride to my auntie's house, which is about 5 miles south of Gallup, New Mexico, on State Highway 602, in an area also known as Red Rock, New Mexico, the Navajo Reservation. Keep in mind this is around 1986. We lived in a one-bedroom house with my grandpa. You would have to drive about 3 miles on a dirt road just to find us. But the direction my brother took was an old abandoned path called the Old Zuni Road, which was a route taken to get to the Zuni Reservation. It was about evening time, so the sun was about ready to set as he rode off onto the dirt road. We had all done that walk before with my mom. During the daytime, it took a few hours, which was a nice getaway from our house. The normal route was walking up to the main highway and hitchhiking into the nearest town. I remember it had finally gotten dark. Me and my mom were sitting outside on a bench just below the area where my grandpa slept. In the distance was a Y in the dirt road. One would take you to my Aunt Shirley's house and the other one ours. We could only see a few yards in front of us. We sat and talked, and the rest of the area was pitch black. When all of a sudden you see my brother pedaling on his bike from out of the darkness. When he reached the Y in the road, he jumped off his bike and started running. I could see how exhausted he was. When my mom realized who it was and heard him screaming, she jumped up and began running towards him. He collapsed about halfway, trying to catch his breath. She held him, kneeling beside him. He panted and was drenched in sweat. My mom grew scared. She could hardly breathe and started panicking and started to cry herself, trying to figure out what he was trying to say. When we finally got him to the bench where we were sitting, we started pouring water on him from the rain barrel that collected our water. From then, he started making full sentences and said, "Mom, it just kept chasing me." From what I remembered, he said he had gotten about halfway to my auntie's house when he looked to the side and saw a shadow hunched over. He then said from behind the tree, a dog-like creature got up on his hind legs and started to chase him. He pedaled and pedaled back to our house and said the whole way it chased him, but he just kept riding as fast as he could. After that night, we had never brought it up among each other. Skinwalkers to Navajos are very taboo and would rather not be talked about.